Someone told you that you judged them too soon. Maybe they said it directly. You never gave me a chance. You made up your mind before you even knew me. You're too quick to write people off. Or maybe nobody said it out loud. Maybe you said it to yourself. In the quiet moments when you wondered if you were being too harsh, too guarded, too quick to notice things that other people seemed fine with overlooking. And you second-guessed yourself. You pushed down that first quiet feeling. You gave another chance, and another, because that's what good people do, right? They don't judge, they give people the benefit of the doubt. They look for the best in others. They don't write someone off because of a feeling they can't even fully explain. So you stayed, you tried, you invested, and then their true colors showed, not all at once, slowly, in ways that were easy to explain away at first and impossible to ignore eventually. And now you're sitting with something that's hard to name, not just the pain of what happened, but the specific frustration of knowing that something in you saw it coming, and you let people talk you out of trusting what you saw. CarlJung had something very specific to say about this, about first impressions, about the quiet knowing that arrives before the evidence does, about what it actually means when someone shows you who they are early, and you choose not to see it. And what he said changes everything about how you understand what happened. Stay with me. Part 1. What your first impression actually is. Most people think of a first impression as something shallow, something that happens on the surface, something that reflects more about your own biases than about the actual person in front of you. And there's some truth to that. First impressions can be wrong. They can be distorted by projection, by past experience, by what you want to be true. But Jung looked at first impressions very differently. He believed that the first impression, that immediate sense you get about a person in the first moments of encountering them, is not primarily a conscious evaluation. It's an unconscious one. Your conscious mind is busy with the surface, with what they are saying, how they look, whether they seem friendly, whether they're making good eye contact, whether they fit your idea of someone you'd want to know. But your unconscious mind is doing something much more sophisticated simultaneously. It's processing everything. The micro-expressions that flash across their face before they arrange it into the expression they want you to see. The subtle inconsistencies between their words and their body language. The tone beneath the tone. The things they choose to say and the things they very carefully don't. And it's comparing all of this to everything it knows from your entire lifetime of human experience. Every person you've ever encountered, every pattern you've ever observed, every dynamic that's ever played out in front of you, and when all of that processing points in a particular direction, the result gets delivered to your conscious mind, not as a logical argument, not as a list of specific evidence, as a feeling, a sense of something being right or wrong about this person that you can't quite justify with specific reasons. That's not bias. That's not being judgmental. That's your most sophisticated intelligence delivering its assessment in the only language it has. Jung said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." And what he meant was that something real happens in the first contact between two people, something that goes beyond the surface conversation, something that the unconscious registers even when the conscious mind is focused elsewhere. That first feeling isn't nothing. It's often the most accurate reading you'll ever get of who someone actually is. Part 2. Why you talked yourself out of it. So if the first impression is often the most accurate reading, why do people so consistently override it? Why do they push down the feeling that something is off, convince themselves they are being unfair, and invest in people who eventually prove the original feeling right? Jung had a clear answer to this, and it comes back to something he called projection. Here's the thing about first impressions that makes them complicated. They can be accurate, but they can also be contaminated by your own history, by your own wounds, by the things you've pushed into your shadow that you now see in other people. And because you know this, because you've been told that not trusting people is a flaw, that being guarded is unhealthy, that you should give everyone a fair chance, you second-guess every uncomfortable feeling you have about someone. You wonder, is this intuition, or is this my past talking? Is this a genuine reading of who this person is, or am I just projecting? And in that uncertainty, in the space between the feeling and the justification, other people can step in. You're being too harsh. You never give people a chance. You always do this. Not everyone is like the last person who hurt you. And because you're already questioning yourself, because you're already worried that the feeling is about your own patterns rather than about this person, you listen to them. You override the feeling. You give the benefit of the doubt. You tell yourself you're growing, being more open, less guarded. But here's what Jung would say about that process. There's a difference between examining your gut feeling honestly and abandoning it because someone made you feel guilty for having it. Honest examination asks, where is this feeling coming from? Is it responding to something real in this person, or is it about something in me? Abandonment under social pressure doesn't ask any of those questions. It just capitulates, because holding the feeling in the face of someone telling you you're wrong is uncomfortable, and letting it go is easier. And then you invest, and invest, and invest, until their true colors show. Part 3. What true colors actually means. Let's talk about this phrase, true colors, because most people use it to mean the bad thing that was eventually revealed. The cruelty or the dishonesty or the selfishness that finally came out from behind the nice presentation. But Jung would understand it more precisely than that. He would say the true colors were always there. They didn't appear later. They were present from the beginning. What changed was not the person. What changed was how visible they allowed themselves to be. Jung had a concept he called the persona, the mask that people wear in public, the face they present to the world, the version of themselves they've constructed for external consumption. Most people are very good at maintaining their persona in the early stages of a relationship, when they're trying to impress, when they are on their best behavior, when the stakes of being truly seen feel high. But the persona is effortful. It requires energy to maintain, and over time, as the relationship becomes more familiar, as the effort of performance relaxes, as the need to impress gives way to the comfort of assuming you're not going anywhere, the persona slips, and what was always beneath it becomes visible. The coldness that was briefly hidden behind warmth, the selfishness that was briefly masked by generosity, the contempt that was briefly covered by respect. This is not a sudden change in who they are. This is a gradual revelation of who they always were, and here's the crucial thing. Your unconscious mind often detected what was beneath the persona in those first moments, before the persona had fully locked into place, before they'd fully calibrated how they needed to present themselves to keep you invested. In those very first moments, your unconscious saw something, and you felt it, and you talked yourself out of it, not because you were stupid, not because you were naive, but because you were hopeful, because you wanted to be fair, because you gave someone the benefit of a doubt they hadn't earned and didn't deserve. That's not a character flaw. That's a generous heart that hadn't yet learned to protect itself without guilt. Part 4. The difference between judging and seeing. Here's the reframe that changes everything. There's a difference between judging someone and seeing someone. Judging is when you make a final, absolute assessment of a person based on limited information. When you decide who they are before you've given reality a chance to show you. When you project your own material onto someone and mistake the projection for perception. Seeing is when your unconscious accurately reads what's actually there. When the pattern matching system in your brain detects something real and delivers it as a feeling. Most of the time when people say you judge them too soon, they're using the word judging when what actually happened was seeing. You saw something, early, clearly, accurately, and then you were made to feel like seeing was the same as being unfair. Jung would make a very clear distinction here. He would say, not all early negative feelings about a person are projection. Some of them are perception, and learning to tell the difference is one of the most important psychological skills you can develop. The question is not, should I trust my first impression? The question is, where is this first impression coming from? Is it coming from something real in this person? From signals your unconscious is accurately detecting? Or is it coming from something in your own history? From a wound that this person resembles? From a pattern you're projecting onto them because of what someone else did? These require different responses. The first, the genuine perception, deserves to be taken seriously, not as an absolute verdict, but as important information that should be factored in, watched for, held with appropriate weight. The second, the projection, deserves to be examined and questioned, to be tested against reality rather than accepted as fact. But here's what most people do instead. They treat every uncomfortable first impression as if it's definitely projection, as if giving someone the benefit of the doubt is always the virtuous choice, as if the feeling is always about them and never about the person in front of them. And then they stay long past the point where staying serves them, not because they were wrong to feel what they felt, but because they were taught that feeling it was the same as being unfair. What this means going forward. So what do you do with this going forward? Jung's answer is not trust every gut feeling immediately and never give anyone a chance. His answer is more nuanced than that and more practically useful. He would say, take your first impression seriously without treating it as a verdict. When you feel something about a person early, something uncomfortable, something that doesn't quite fit the surface they are presenting, don't immediately override it. Don't push it down in the name of being fair or open-minded. Sit with it. Hold it. Watch for evidence that either confirms or contradicts it. Give people the opportunity to show you who they are, but do it with your eyes open. Do it while paying attention. Do it while honoring the feeling that was there from the beginning rather than pretending it wasn't. And when the feeling persists, when it keeps coming back no matter how many times you try to logic it away, stop talking yourself out of it, because here's what Jung understood about that persistent feeling. If it's projection, if it's really about your own past and your own wounds rather than about this person, it will fade as you get to know them, as reality provides information that contradicts the feeling, as this person demonstrates through consistent behavior over time that they are not who the feeling said they were. But if it doesn't fade, if it keeps quietly returning despite everything they do to reassure you, it's probably not projection, it's probably perception. And the people who consistently end up hurt, who consistently find themselves saying, I knew something was off from the beginning, are usually not people who are too quick to judge. They're people who saw clearly early and then trusted too long. So the next time someone tells you that you're judging them too soon, ask yourself honestly, am I judging or am I seeing? Because those are not the same thing, and knowing the difference, genuinely knowing it in your gut with the kind of quiet certainty that doesn't need anyone else's permission, is how you stop giving your trust to people who were never worthy of it in the first place. Your first impression was not the problem. What you did with it was, and now you know better.